Hi everyone, this is part 3 of my massive 2025 lineup video. Parts 1 and 2 covered the planners, journals, and project notebooks that I plan to work in for 2025, and this video, part 3, covers my sketchbooks. Part 1 and 2 are linked on screen or down below. Okay, here we go. Sketchbooks. This is my warm-up sketchbook. This is one of the Talon's Art Creation sketchbooks. It's just a little square one. I started in October 2023, and I'm not quite halfway done. This sketchbook really has two purposes. One is that if I only have 10 minutes, I can just go in it and do something really quickly. Usually it's a face. I'll pull up reference, like I said, and draw a face. The second purpose is maybe if I have a longer stretch of time, like I have, I don't know, I have an hour, I have 2 hours. Again, one of the big things, and I've talked about this before in this video, is just avoiding that kind of brain freeze of like, oh my God, I have 2 hours to make art. Where do I start? And so even if I have 2 hours, a lot of times I'll start with like a 10-minute sketch in here just to sort of start creating art, just to get myself started. You know, having only 10 minutes to make art has upsides and downsides, right? The upside, the downside is obvious, it's not a lot of time, but the upside is it's sort of low pressure. It's like you got 10 minutes, go. You don't have time to think about it. When you have 2 hours, like 2 hours or 4 hours, like that's a decent chunk of time, right? Maybe 4 hours on a Saturday, but it's so easy to start overthinking how you spend that time in a way that you wouldn't if it were 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes. So I try to use this to just, even if I have 4 hours and I'm like, oh my God, I finally have a 4-hour window to make art on a Saturday afternoon. Like I'll start with 10 minutes in here just to make sure that I actually sit down and start writing and I don't sit there trying to figure out what I should work on forever. So that's it's just like my little warm-up sketchbook. I try to work in it. Lately I've been I dropped it for a while because things were crazy, guys, but lately I'm going back to trying to work in it every day. When I first started working in it, I was working in it pretty much every morning, and then obviously this year it got dropped for a while. And there are other sketchbooks I work in. I don't, sometimes I will work in one of those instead, but a lot of times this is the first one I'll work in, and then I'll do a longer session in one of the other sketchbooks. So I'm hoping to finish this year, actually. I think that would be good because I really want to just go back to using it every morning, basically. Okay, this is my other kind of main sketchbook. This is a new one. So this is very new. I've just barely started like the first page. I'm like planning a portfolio piece in it. So mostly it's blank. This is a moleskin. It's one of the bigger moleskins. I don't know. I'll have it linked below. It's one of the big ones. And it's not like watercolor paper or anything like that. It's like the big extra large moleskin sketchbook, or maybe extra large. Anyway, I just finished actually one of these. Where is it? Here it is. I just finished this. So I was working in it from April 4th, 2022 through December 24th, 2024. It's like just a few days ago. I did not actually finish this one completely cover to cover. I gave myself a bit of a break. So I finished most of it, but I cut myself a bit of a break because I'm starting a couple of kind of big new portfolio projects, and I made a bit of a mistake working in this one, which is I did not work chronologically. Like I didn't work in order. I just worked turned to random pages, and that turned out to be, it works for some people, but it turned out to be a mistake for me because now there are blank pages left in here, not a ton, but there are a few, but they are not consecutive. Like there's a couple at the beginning, one in the middle, 2 at the end, and I have like a serious project that I want to plan and thumbnail and work through. And I can't do it in this because the pages would be spread out. Like I don't have 2 consecutive blank pages in the sketchbook. I have a few blank pages left and some half pages that are still blank, but none of it's consecutive. So I decided to I've been through a lot while working in a sketchbook, and I was like, you know what? It's like 85, 90% done. You've learned a ton. It's gotten chunky. There's a lot going on. And I decided to just let myself set it aside. Normally I'm very, these days I'm pretty serious about I finish my books before I set them aside, but every once in a while I will make an exception, either for a pragmatic reason, which is mostly what this is. It's just that, and the binding is low-key kind of there's some issues with the bind. Yeah, there's like a chunk of, I don't know if you can see that, but there's like a chunk of pages that's having serious problems. So I have been tough on this notebook. So anyway, it's mostly for pragmatic reasons because I don't have enough consecutive pages to like work on this portfolio piece that I'm trying to plan. And then it's also a little bit for emotional reasons because sometimes if you've worked in a book for a while and you've been through a lot, and this goes for like journals, sketchbooks, you just, I don't know, there's like baggage associated with it. It's like hearing a song that you used to listen to a lot when you were going through a breakup. Or like seeing a sweater that you used to wear a lot when you were in high school or something. You know, there's like this emotional attachment. I've been through a lot while working in this sketchbook. I've learned a ton. I'm incredibly grateful for it. I've had a lot of fun in this sketchbook, but like I've said, I'm trying to kind of enter a new chapter here, and this has a lot of old energy and no consecutive blank pages. So it's done. Out with the old, in with the new. This is the new one. It's the same book, except it's red. And I spent a bunch of time. These are mostly stickers. Some of them are stickers from Sticky, but a bunch of them are stickers from San Antonio Zine Fest. I have a video coming out during which I like actually decorated this. I've already filmed that. I'm not sure what voiceover I'm doing for it, but I filmed myself decorating this. I love this notebook so much. I'm so excited for the work I'm going to do in it. And that video will be coming out definitely on Instagram, probably on YouTube too. And I'm going to tag, maybe I'll tag them below now, but I'll definitely tag, I have to find the sticker creators and tag them in that video. So yes, so I don't know if I explained actually what these are, but this is my like project planning, working messy sketchbook. So this is specifically, it's designed, it's not supposed to have any finished pieces in it. It's for planning, thumbnailing, and designing other projects, like future finished pieces, and also sometimes for like organizing if there's something specific I'm studying, like I'm studying perspective. Sometimes I'll take notes in here. So it's very much, there's a lot of actual writing. I mean, this is brand new obviously, but there's a lot of actual writing in here. Like when I went to San Antonio Zine Fest, there was a panel on making comics, and like I took a lot of notes in here. There's a lot of planning, thumbnailing, like I said, trying out color palettes, just different things for bigger projects. So it's not meant to have finished pieces in it, and it's really not meant to be shown to anyone, partly because it's insanely messy, and also because there's like a lot of ideas and just sometimes personal stuff as well. So it's meant to be just for me, and it's meant to be messy working. And this was using this notebook from 2022 to 2024, I learned so much about my workflow. Like this was the first time this was when I first started branching into keeping multiple sketchbooks at the same time. Like before this sketchbook, I was mostly working in one sketchbook at a time. I think maybe I started branching into multiple sketchbooks a little bit before, but this sketchbook was when I really started developing more of a workflow and really kind of understanding what a workflow in art practice looks like for me. It was such an educational experience. Just I learned a lot from it. But like I said, it's time. It's time to say goodbye. I love it, but it's time for it to be over. So this is the new version, and I should be working in it. Like if this year doesn't go insane like this past year has, if 2025 is not a completely insane year and I do what I'm supposed to do, what I plan to do, I should work in this one a lot, because I have several portfolio pieces that I'm trying to work on. I have some ideas like for zines and things like that. And so portfolio pieces, zines, all of that stuff would be planned in this notebook. So if I'm actually working on any of that stuff, I'll be working in this notebook. Okay, and then I have a couple of other, this one doesn't have a decorated cover. This is my anatomy sketchbook. Here's just like an example of like, this is gonna be, I've done one page, I'm gonna do the other page, but this is just a spread of like, I was just trying to study the eye a little bit. It's not finished, but it doesn't have any naked body parts, so it's safe. It's safe for YouTube. This sketchbook, I have no idea who made it, but I wish I did, because I like got this book for myself when I was a teenager. Like, when was it? It says on the inside, Steele Alexandra Doris. I got this in 2008. I was in my early teens, and this is oh my God. And it's like 16 years ago yesterday. I started using it, but I wasn't very consistent with drawing as a teenager at all. Drawing was way more of a challenge for me than writing was. I was insanely prolific with writing. I was journaling, I was writing novels, I was doing all kinds of things. I was on fan fiction all the time. I wrote a ton as a teenager. I didn't draw as much. I really didn't. I didn't become really serious about keeping a sketchbook. Not because I didn't love it, but it was harder for me. I was naturally much more of a writer than I was an artist. I loved art, but I was sort of puzzled by how to progress. Whereas with writing and with school, I was a little bit more like, school and writing kind of made more sense to me. I still had to work hard, obviously, but school and writing clicked more. Art, it's taken me a long time. So anyway, I started using this, did a couple pages, and then like tore the pages out, which was just what I used to do. There's dust here. What I used to do all the time as a teenager. I tore a bunch of pages out. And then recently I was going through like old boxes and I found this, and it was still like mostly blank. And amazingly enough, this 16-year-old binding that has had pages torn out of it is in amazing shape. Like, compare it to the Moleskine. Where is the Moleskine? We're going to do a little comparison. Yeah, here's the Moleskine, which I've only had. I got it April 2022, so it's coming up on 3 years. And there's a chunk of pages that are like the binding is hanging on for dear life here. And I haven't torn any pages out. And I have been sort of rough on it, but still. And then this, I've torn a chunk of pages out, and it's 16 years old, and that binding, there are no pages coming out. Like, this binding is amazing. I will say the paper is kind of terrible, but I'm using this for my anatomy sketchbook because I knew it couldn't be a sketchbook that I used for finished pieces because I hate the paper. Like, it doesn't cooperate with most of the mediums I like, to be honest. The only medium that I like and that it does okay with, I think, is like my Prismacolor Color Ace. Like the Color Ace. So not the Prismacolor Premier Pretty Colored Pen. The Prismacolor Color Ace do okay in here. Everything else, I dislike how it interacts with the paper. But like I said, the binding is rock solid. And so I was like, okay, well, it'll work for an anatomy sketchbook, because for an anatomy sketchbook, I'm mostly going to be sketching. I'm not probably going to be like whipping out my markers or my watercolors or anything like that. And it won't matter if the paper is kind of trash because I'm not doing finished pieces. So it's like dry media and studying only, no finished pieces, no wet media, and the binding is solid. So yeah, I'll continue working in the anatomy sketchbook. So that's just what I call it, the anatomy sketchbook. I'm going to continue working in my anatomy sketchbook this upcoming year. I may be doing some of my anatomy sketching in Procreate on my iPad, we'll see, but as this book has proved, it's like indestructible. The binding is indestructible. So I'm just going to keep working in it as long as it survives on and off. And I would like to improve my anatomy. I've been trying to improve my anatomy forever. I will always be trying to improve my anatomy. No one ever stops improving their anatomy as an artist. So yes. So working projects, we've got, for sketchbooks, there's warm-up sketchbook, working, planning, messy sketchbook, anatomy sketchbook. This little guy is another Moleskine. It's not a watercolor sketchbook or anything. It's just your standard paper. And this is a new one because earlier this year I finished this little guy. So these are exactly the same, except this one is a blue cover and this one has a black cover. They're both medium Moleskine sketchbooks. I finished this one. These are Mapgrave stickers, and then I forget this artist's name, but I'll try to link it below. These are mostly sticky stickers, and then like I think one from San Antonio Zine Fest. But this is, let's see. Yeah, here's an example. So this is actually marker, Jennifer's Body, obviously. Love her so much. This, I wasn't sure what it was. I did finish pieces in here. I did studied in here. I practiced in here. It was kind of chaotic. It was kind of a mess. I just did like a whole bunch. For example, I was trying to do Wednesday Addams. It didn't turn out looking like her, but I had fun. So I finished this earlier this year, and I made some changes to what I want to do. So this was like a mix of everything. So it's the same kind of sketchbook. It was a mix of everything. This guy is just basically going to be 4 finished pieces, and mostly finished pieces, colored pencil or graphite. So not wet media, like the Jennifer's Body piece that I did in this one. That was marker. It was marker with, I think, a little bit of colored pencil or maybe some ink added on top. I mean, I like it. I like how it turned out, but it would not be my preference to do like a finished marker piece on like this kind of standard sketchbook paper, which is really not for wet media, I don't think. So This is going to be mostly for finished pieces, colored pencil, and graphite. And that's really my only plan for it. And I don't know that this will be filled that quickly, because I wouldn't say colored pencil and graphite are like my top mediums right now. A lot of times if I'm using colored pencil, I'm layering it on top of something else like marker or watercolor. But it's adorable, and I am glad to have it as a place for those pieces to live when I do work on them. I also have a couple of watercolor sketchbooks. This is a landscape Strathmore sketchbook. I just have I worked in this for a while, and then I discovered etcher paper, and I really liked etcher paper a lot. But I just experimented when I was first kind of messing around with doing more watercolor. This is what I was messing around in. And I love these stickers on the cover. And I don't know that when this is finished, I'm going to get another one like this, because I don't, well, that's not true, because I want to work more in landscapes this year. So I was going to say I didn't love the landscape orientation, but also one of my goals for this year is to spend more time doing landscapes, because I never do landscapes. I'm always doing portraits and character design. So we'll see. If I actually do that, then I may finish this and get another one like it. But yeah, these are my two watercolor sketchbooks. This one is more for landscapes. This is kind of my favorite one right now. This is the Etcher. I am planning to paint this cover at some point. It's a really interesting cover. It's like a canvas cover. Kind of fun. It has really, really pretty paper. This is just like a toad wearing a jack-o'-lantern that I made a while back. But it's just really, I love the paper. I don't have plans to it's not like I'm aiming to finish these this year or anything like that. I just want to do more watercolor work. I especially want to do more watercolor landscapes. So, and gouache and watercolor landscapes, I would say. So maybe actually, even though I kind of like the etcher paper better, I may try to get farther in this one. So these are two that I'll have in rotation, basically. They will be on the go. And this one I may set a more specific goal at some point to finish a certain number of spreads in here, because I do kind of need to, I want to do more landscapes, and I'm always drawing people instead. In part because human anatomy and faces and getting likenesses is just an ongoing struggle sometimes. So, but yeah, hopefully more landscapes. So these are the watercolor sketchbooks. And then I just have a couple of others that are kind of medium specific. This right here, which is recently decorated. In advance of this video, I tried to put stickers on some of my blank sketchbooks. So this is a giant mixed media. There's a self-portrait that's watercolor, marker, and not colored pencil, but white ink on top. That's a self-portrait taken from a photo of myself. So that's me. This is a Stillman and Byrne mixed media. It's the Delta series. I love this. I love this notebook. I just think it's really fantastic. It seems to have a tough binding. It seems to be hanging in there better than the Moleskine. Not to keep dissing the Moleskine, but I was not impressed with what happened with that cover. And unlike my anatomy sketchbook, which has an insanely tough binding, this paper, it's not just the binding that's tough, the paper is also really good. Here's a random marker portrait. So this is mostly for finish. There's a brain. This is when I was I got a small grant to do a zine, and I was trying to plan the cover basically. Yeah, long story, but it's from last year. There's some planning work in here, you just saw the zine planning that I was doing. There's another that was more work for the zine, and more work for the zine. In the future, I want to mostly put finished pieces like this, like that, in here. I don't want to be wasting this rather expensive paper on planning. I'll probably be doing this more in the Moleskine, even though the Moleskine doesn't necessarily, it's not my favorite paper for watercolor. I would try to do this kind of thing in the Moleskine and reserve this for kind of big finished pieces. But I love the Stillman and Byrne. Love Stillman and Byrne. Love this size. Love this paper. So hopefully I'll do more big finished pieces. This is like my favorite self-portrait probably that I've ever done. So hopefully I'll be doing more like kind of big mixed media finished pieces in here. I'll leave the planning for the Moleskine sketchbook. I have a couple more that are kind of medium specific. This right here is actually just another Talons Art Creation sketchbook. Got more stickers. That's Mab Graves. More Mab Graves. I adore Mab Graves. These are more sticky stickers. This is just... This one I'm kind of still trying to decide exactly what I want to do in it. It's, yeah, Talons Art Creation, one of their kind of medium size. I like these sketchbooks. They're not my favorite for wet media, but I don't know. My goal for this is something in between like a totally messy sketchbook and a really polished finished piece sketchbook. And I also like, one of my goals, I'm not sure exactly how to articulate it, but is essentially to work on spread design more, because I'm at the point where I'll like create finished pieces, but a lot of times I'm like not happy with how I design spreads. So there will be like either one giant piece that I like well enough, or there will be like a small piece that I really like, but then another small piece down here that I sort of hate, or this page will be one thing and this page will be something completely different. So in this sketchbook, I want to work more on, this is just like an unfinished gouache piece, but I want to work more on specifically spread design, because there are some artists on Instagram and on YouTube who have like the cohesion and the color with their spreads. It's like, it's amazing. And my spreads are just so chaotic by comparison. So I really want to, yeah, I want to work on spread design in here. So I want this to be kind of like, not necessarily insanely polished, but also not like one of my messy sketchbooks. And I want to think a lot about spread, how the spreads look, and experimenting with different styles of spreads to sort of figure out exactly what I'm going for. So that's the goal with this Talons Art Creation. And then, oh my God, we're nearly done, and it's good because my voice is like giving up. This is covered in, these are two Strathmore mixed medias. We're sort of getting to the end of the line here. This one is covered in gesso because I plan to paint it, but again, I haven't. And this is another Strathmore mixed media. It's like the smaller size. And it's just like a mix of, let's see. So like here's, for example, this is David from The Lost Boys, clearly someone I like. That's the Frog Brothers on the other side of that page. Someone from Pinterest, I don't know. This sketch is really messed up, so I'll probably never paint it. That's, I think, gouache. This, I basically, again, this is a little bit of a throwback to when I was still sort of trying to figure out. As of the last year, a lot of stuff has kind of clicked for me when it comes to what sketchbooks I want to keep and what I want to put in them. Journaling for me, again, like I'd been writing since childhood and very prolifically since my early teens. So when it comes to my writing and my notebooks and how all of that works, and I've just done an English Lit PhD and I have a book out, I have a really strong sense of what works for me with writing notebooks. Art is a much newer practice for me. Like, I loved to draw as a kid and a teenager, but didn't do it that frequently. So my like serious sketchbook practice is really only about 4.5 years old, 4 to 5 years old, something like that. And you know, I just got like my first arts grant a couple years ago. So I'm very new in a lot of ways. I know 4 or 5 years maybe sounds like a lot of time, but honestly, when it comes to like a creative medium, that is not very much time at all. It's really not. And so I still feel like I'm really actively figuring out what a sketchbooking practice looks like for me. My journaling practice is obviously always evolving. It's always fluctuating. You know, I'm always tweaking it. But I have a really solid and old foundation for my journaling. My sketchbooking, it's a lot more chaotic because it's newer and things are still really in flux. So as a result, some of these sketchbooks, like I know what I'm going to use them for this upcoming year, but that isn't necessarily what I've been using them for until now. So with this, I just want to use I want to like only do finished pieces in here from now on. So all the planning is supposed to go in this big red Moleskine sketchbook, and then the finished pieces for like mixed media finished pieces. If they're smaller, they'll go in here. If they're bigger, They'll go in the big Stillman and Burn that I absolutely love. And then obviously if they're not wet media, if they're like a dry media, they'll go in here. So that's sort of how I'm organizing things. I have 2 last sketchbooks that I'm not really sure. This is just another Strathmore mixed media. There's almost nothing in here. Originally, when I got these 2, the plan was like one was going to be marker and the other one was going to be gouache. I quickly realized that like I didn't need to split them that way, and it didn't make it was like, it's fine. I can have marker portraits and gouache portraits in the same mixed media sketchbook. That's fine. So this is a result. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with it. It might just sit the year out. I might just finish this one, paint the cover, wrap it up, and then use that in like 2026 or something. We'll see. This is one last one. Oh my God. This is a Talon's Art Creation. It's a big one though. The plan with this originally was that, so I have some jewelry making, sculpting, clay, miniature kind of work that I want to do. So art that's not 2D basically. And originally I was planning that this was kind of going to be like a messy planning sketchbook for those projects. So like this would be my messy planning, brainstorming, thumbnailing project for like 2D art projects, you know, drawing and painting projects. And this would be for any like 3D, like sculpting, jewelry making, miniatures, anything like that. I don't actually think that it's necessary to split them into 2 books. Like I think I could easily just do all of the planning in this notebook. I don't know, we'll see. So I had originally, like, there were some jewelry designs, jewelry pieces that I wanted to make that I had planned out in this notebook, but I don't know. I may just also move all planning into this notebook, since that's what it's for, and just let this one sit on the shelf and think things over. So yeah, so these 2, I'm not really sure. But these sketchbooks, these guys, I sort of know. Messy planning, anatomy sketchbook, big mixed media finished pieces, portrait watercolor and gouache, landscape watercolor and gouache, messy warm-up sketchbook, finished pieces in graphite and colored pencil, markers, gouache, watercolor, markers, gouache, watercolor finished pieces that are like roughly this size, not big enough to be in this notebook, and playing more with spreads. And yeah, those are the sketchbooks. And then these guys, I don't exactly know. Finally, there's one more thing. I am doing some digital art these days. So I have my iPad. Some of these stickers are coming off. I have my iPad, and I do want to be more deliberate about practicing digital art. I feel like, you know, because I love working in books so much, I tend to always reach for one of my books. But the reality is, for some of the portfolio pieces that I have planned for this year, like it would really make sense to do them digitally in a lot of ways, because, you know, because I would need to digitize them anyway because of what I plan to make with them and do with them. And so it might make sense to just make them digitally, you know, maybe sketch them out and plan them here in the sketchbook, but then do them digitally. So anyway, yeah, I'm not going to go into my Procreate files because it's total chaos, but I have a couple of like working sketchbooks in Procreate. I have kind of like one that's basically the equivalent of this. So it's like a planning Procreate sketchbook. I have one that's actually associated with, where is it? My monster project, you know, my monster world building project. I've got like the project notebook, the sketchbook. Well, there's also a digital sketchbook associated with it. It's in here. And then I have a third sketchbook that's for like more finished digital pieces, basically. That's how it's organized right now. My digital art life is even more chaotic than my non-digital art life, so who knows if it's gonna last, but I do want to work more in that. So that's what I've got. I mean, that's all of the books. Obviously, I have no idea what the year is going to bring. 2024 was nothing like what I expected it to be. It was certainly nothing like what I hoped it was going to be. But so far I've, miserably, but I've like rolled with the punches. We'll see how 2025 goes. I'm keeping my aims modest in a lot. I know this doesn't look modest, but like in my head, all I really want is for 2025 to be at least a little bit better than 2024. That's my only true goal. Like my only true goal for 2025 is that it's just like a little less difficult than 2024. We'll see if that works out. We'll see how it goes. But in the meantime, however much I'm suffering, I'm going to try to work in my books and distract myself. And yeah, and hopefully it's not a rough year, and hopefully I can really get into like a post-PhD like groove and write a lot of fiction and do a lot of fun things. I'm hoping for a lot of fun this year. So yeah, so this is my setup. I'm probably going to make more videos in general about journaling and these different kinds of journals that I keep. If there's anything in particular that you found interesting, you could always like write down below that you'd like to hear more about it or something. But yeah, we'll see. Anyway, if you actually watched the whole video, thank you so much. That's really cool. You must be a lot like me. I don't think anyone else would want to put up with this entire video. And yeah, best of luck to you for the new year, and hopefully you have a really creative, fun, interesting new year. And yeah, more videos coming soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.